How do I create a lease for my rental property? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm a business law and estate planning attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. And today we're going to give you a quick 10-step checklist that you can look at when you're creating a lease for your rental property. Now, before we go too deep in the topic, I should tell you, of course, that before you try to do this yourself, it makes more sense to work with a professional. Speak to your local attorney, speak to somebody who's in the industry and understands how to create these leases. There's a lot of really bad leases online, really bad forms that have the wrong jurisdiction, have the wrong clauses that make no sense for you and your renter. A lot of clients come to me after trying to do this themselves and realize that they've just got the wrong lease. And you don't want to find this out when you're stuck in landlord-tenant court and you find out the judge says your lease is unenforceable and your tenant gets away with whatever they were getting away with. However, if you're going to work on the lease yourself, I want to give you a quick 10-step guide of provisions and things that we need to make sure are in our lease. Number one, the parties involved. You need to make sure that the lease clearly states who is renting the property and who is the landlord. If you have more than one renter in the property, we want to make sure that both or 3 or 4, however many people are renting, that everybody is on the lease. Number two, the lease specifics. You need to talk about how long is the lease, what is the amount of rent, is there a payment schedule, what about the security deposit. This is where you want to cross all the T's and dot all the I's to make sure it's clear about what the payments look like under your lease so that there's no question come the first of the month who's paying what amount of money and where those payments should go. Number three, comprehensive property details. This means we have to clearly identify the property that they're renting. And we need to say what amenities are included, what's the condition of the property, can they make any changes to the property, who's responsible for maintenance, who's responsible for other fixes and things that happen on the property. So we want to make sure that we have a good comprehensive list of what's going on at the property. Number four, rules and regulations. What are you going to let your tenants do? Are there noise violations? Are there noise levels that they have to observe? Can they have visitors? Are there any kind of lifestyle policies? For example, do you want them to be allowed to smoke or not smoke? You need to make sure as well if you're going to allow pets or not. You want to have a clear provision saying, yes, you can have pets. No, you can't have pets. If you're going to have pets, do you want to have a deposit or some other provision in case the pet does some kind of damage to the property? Number five is a big one, utilities and services, gas, power, electric. Who's going to be paying them? Is it included in the rent? Is it going to be separately billed to the tenant? If it's separately billed to the tenant, we want to have a provision that says they have to be the ones to set up the account, put it in their name, take care of whatever has to be taken care of with the power company or the electric company or the gas company. Number six, repairs and maintenance. Who's responsible for routine things like routine things or emergency repairs? Who's going to fix up if light bulbs break, if we have other small repairs, or do we have to have a super come in or a handyman come in to make big repairs? We want this all spelled out in our lease so we don't have any problems. Number seven, we want to respect everyone's privacy. So you need to make sure that you understand what your tenant is comfortable with. So usually as the owner, you do have the right to come in and inspect the property. However, you want to make sure you have a clear procedure and a notice so you know how you do it. So you're going to call the tenant at 8 o'clock the night before to let them know if they're going to come at 8 in the morning. It's like a 12-hour notice. It could be longer. It could be in writing with an email. Whatever it is, you want to respect the privacy of your tenants and make sure the procedures are clear on how you can inspect the property or come visit if you want to see if something's going on. Number 8 is going to be a big one, and this is the renewal and termination of the lease. Can the lease be automatically renewed? Does somebody have to give notice it's being renewed or not renewed? Does the lease automatically terminate at the end? Does it turn into a month-to-month lease? There's a lot of different options surrounding the end of a lease, just like any contract. And you need to make sure that it's very clear about what happens as we get to the end of the lease. Is there renewals or the terminations? Whatever those provisions may be, you need to make sure those are also clearly spelled out. Number 9, we're going to look at the legal aspects. So what are we going to do with the security deposit? What about late fees? What about any other disputes under the agreement? This is where the lawyers come in, and that's where we make our money when we have disputes under the agreement. So we want to make sure that these legal aspects are clearly spelled out under your lease. Especially if you're going to be looking for attorney's fees, you have to collect back rent, you want to make sure that attorney's fees are spelled out in that lease agreement. Number 10, The final thing we need to make sure of is that the lease is properly signed. We want all of the parties to sign it. Everybody who's a tenant is going to be there. Somebody on behalf of the landlord, whether it's you individually or your LLC or whatever it is, we need all the important parties to sign for the properties. And we want to make sure that everyone's empowered to sign. None of the tenants should be under the age of 18. So these are all these formalities we go through whenever we create a contract. So hopefully you can see from these 10 steps that there's a lot that goes into your lease. There's a lot of, again, really bad leases online that I don't think you want to take a chance with. Because if you have to go to court to evict a client, or they haven't paid rent, or something else has happened, and that bad lease, the judge looks at it and says, wait a second, this is not valid, then you could be out a lot of money and a lot of headaches. So instead, work with a professional and get the right lease for you and your property. If you're ready to get started, you have more questions, you can go to my website, 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀. There's a red legal strategy session button on the front page. If you click it, you're taken to my calendar. We can set up a 15 or 20 minute phone call to discuss you, your property, and what you're looking for in a lease. If you aren't even sure where to start, or you know you need a new lease, or maybe we just need to review the old one, we're happy to hop on that call and take a look at that for you. If you like this video, you can hit the like button and the thumbs up below. You can share it. You can go over to YouTube and check things out. But wherever you are, I hope you enjoyed this video. And wherever you are in the process of renting out your property, let's make sure we have the right lease for you so that if you have any problems with your tenant, you don't get an unlikely surprise when you're in court.